Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Ogba and my topic for today is project definition for results. So Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. is quoted as having said, "I would not give a fig for the simplicity this side of complexity, but I would give my life for all the simplicity on the other side of complexity." So this is a great quote that hints at a model and a goal that all investors, product managers, developers, entrepreneurs, leaders, and process innovators should aim to follow in creating products and processes that are not only useful but also simple. So when a particular idea, product, or process start out, it usually starts with just a simple idea. So sometimes that idea might have some utility for better or for worse. So we human often need to complicate things. We share the idea with someone and they give us feedback. Usually the feedback in the form of "that's great, but it would be better if," and there starts the cycle of complicating the idea. So we add additional complexity for the sake of increasing the usefulness of the idea. Initially, this added information really does feel like the solution, so it becomes justified. So however, at some point in the time you may reach a point where the added information may not be useful, it's just making it harder to apply in the process. Keep this model in mind, improve the utility, challenge yourself or your team to improve your product without overcomplicating it. So, what is project management? So, it is the process of leading the work of a team to achieve all project goals within the given constraints. So, project management can be defined as the discipline of applying a specific process and principles to initiate, plan, execute, and manage the way the new initiatives or changes are implemented within an organization. Project management body of knowledge. So the Project Management Institute is a professional organization focused on making project management intentional rather than accidental. To formalize project management as a profession, PMI offers initial and ongoing certification based on examination and professional experience, ethical standards for public good, and codification of project management body of knowledge. So there are 9 areas in project management presented by PMBOK. So first is the integration management. So it includes processes to ensure that the project elements are coordinated and includes project plan development and execution, as well as integrated change in control. So it is the coordination of all elements of a project. So including coordinating tasks, resources, stakeholders, and any other project elements. So in addition to managing conflicts between different aspects of a project, making trades-off between competing requests and evaluating resources. So the second is scope management. So include processes to ensure that the project includes all of the work required and only the work required. So to complete the project successfully, this includes scope planning, definition, verification, and change control. So it is the process whereby the outputs, outcomes, and benefits are identified, defined, and controlled. So scope is the term used in the management of projects to refer to the totality of the outputs, outcomes, and benefits and the work required to produce them. The third is time management. So includes the processes to ensure the timely completion of the project. So such as activity definition, sequencing, and duration. So estimation of schedule, development, and control. So it's the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between a specific activity. So good time management enable you to work smarter, not harder, so that you get more done in less time even when time is tight and pressures are high. The fourth is cost management. So includes processes to ensure that the project is completed within the approved budget, starting with resource planning and continuing through estimating, budgeting, and cost control. So it is the process of estimating, allocating, and controlling project cost. So it allows a business to predict future expenses to reduce the chance of budget overrun. So projected costs are calculated during the planning phase of project and must be approved before work begins. So the fifth is quality management. So includes planning assurance and control process to ensure that the project will be satisfy the goals for which it was undertaken. So quality management is the overseeing all activities and tasks needed to maintain a desired level of excellence. So it includes the determination of a quality policy, creating and implementing quality planning and assurance and quality control and improvement. Next is human resource management. So it includes the processes required to make the most effective use of the people involved with the project through organizational planning, staff acquisition, and team development activities. So it's the practice of recruiting, hiring, deploying, and managing an organization's employees, and it is employees management with an emphasis on this employee as asset. So employees are sometimes referred to as human capital. So project communication management includes the process needed for effective communication such as stakeholders, analysis and plan development, information distribution, performance reporting, and administrative closure. So project communication management is a collection of processes that help make sure that the right messages are sent, received, and understood by the right people. Risk management so includes processes to maximize the probability and consequences of positive events and minimize the probability and consequences of events that are adverse to project objectives. So this results from risk management planning, risk identification, risk analysis, qualitative and quantitative, risk response planning, and risk monitoring and control. So it is the process of identifying, assessing, and controlling threats to an organization's capital and earnings. So these threats or risks could stem from a wide variety of sources, including financial, legal liabilities, strategic management errors, accidents, and natural disasters. The last one is procurement management. So includes processes required to acquire goods and services to attain project scope. So such as planning, solicitation, source selection, contract administration, and contact close out. So procurement is the strategic approach to managing and optimizing organizational spend. So it involves acquiring quality goods and services from preferred vendors within a stipulated budget on or before the deadline. So let's proceed to Project Management Foundation. So Project Management Foundation provides methods, tools, and techniques to help participants effectively initiate, plan, manage, control, and close projects. So this is accomplished because good project management does the following. First, manages complexity with explicit plans, controlled changes, risk management, and intentional communication. So leverage experience by identifying and acquiring specific resources at specific times, promoting time development, and distributing information. Next, promotes organizational learning with clear project definition, performance reporting, quality management, and administrative contract and closeouts. Next, supports organizational structures by sequencing activities and scheduling work in a way that makes sense for the project. So outside of the formal organizational hierarchy. So prepares the risk response with plans to adjust for positive and negative effects outside the project. The last one is facilitates change within a project with scope, schedule, quality, and management controls that make it clear what the impact of changes will be. So stakeholder analysis and communications management also support the project team's ability to change. So project management is systematic in approach, oriented to human factors, adaptable in uncertainty, and effective for interdependent activity coordination. In fact, it is a process. So the techniques associated with project management have evolved since the beginning of civilization. So here are some specific milestones in that evolution. First is the construction works of antiquity, such as the Egyptian pyramids and the Great Wall of China. Shipbuilding, such as the Spanish Armada and the Swedish Vasa. Next is large-scale product development, as in automobile production. And resource tracking, like the Gantt chart used in World War I. Next is the process flow diagrams, such as those used in World War II. The critical path method, CPM, developed by DuPont, and the program evaluation and review technique, PERT, developed by the U.S. Navy in the 1950s. And lastly, the personal computers and tracking software that have been widely available since the 1990s. So as the complexity of society and business has grown, so too have the tools available to manage products and projects. Let's proceed to project success factor. So project management researchers have been striving to identify factors that lead to project success since the 1960s and have attained several conclusions that have been largely disclosed in project management literature. So, however, in spite of all the effort to determine project success factor, despite all the acquired individual and collective experience in project management, and despite the continuous growth in project management, professional bodies membership, project results are still disappointing to the different stakeholders. So, although there has been a consensus regarding the importance of the concept of success factors for the project management practice, project management scholars have different views and definition of these aspects. So, study after study has shown that the project success factor has three key success factors for a project, and these are clear definition of objectives, second, a realistic schedule of activities, and the last one is the true commitment of the project team, including the project sponsor. So the bottom line. So this illustration shows that unless you know what the bottom line of a project is supposed to be, you will probably not achieve it. While technically a good project finishes on time, in budget, and with the intended result, if those results are not clearly defined in the business terms, that is the bottom line, the project cannot succeed. So the solution is a simple but powerful approach that encourages understanding and collaboration. So it is useful in managing expectation and ensuring sponsor support. So the technique of project definition is foundational to all of the other processes in project management. So the following method is a practical approach that focuses on result, not paperwork. So in technique, developing a statement of work. So a statement of work, or SOW, is a document routinely employed in the field of project management. So it is the narrative description of a project's work requirement. So it defines project-specific activities, deliverable, and timelines for a vendor providing service for the client. So ang first is the scope definition. So scope definition introductory paragraph starts with the purpose of a project. So it is the introductory paragraph. So and describes the specific deliverables that should result from the work. It should be clear as what the scope does and does not include, as well as when the project begins and ends. The next is objectives. Objectives has two parts. So the first is primary objectives, or the reason for undertaking the project. So if the scope explains the what of the project, objectives explain the why. So primary objectives is paramount. So if you cannot accomplish their main objective, you might as well not bother doing the project. So it should be measurable, bottom line, primary objective. Second is secondary objectives. So typically expected benefits. So they contribute to the project's impact but are not sufficient to determine success. But it should be measurable as well and must be complete to keep the so concise. And key stakeholders are a subset of stakeholders who have power to prevent the project from achieving its full set of objectives and potentially may cause the project to fail. So these are the people pay attention to the document that have their names on them. It is prudent to identify the project sponsors, the project leader, team members by name, if known, otherwise by role, and important people who have vested interest in the conduct and or outcome of the project. So this list represents the foundation of your communications plan. So you know who should be kept apprised of project developments. So for your customers, kanang retention initiatives, you want to ensure that your boss is the executive as sponsor. So you are likely the project leader, since you will not want to take away from your sales force customer time. The other regional sales directors are likely stakeholders as the department heads for the areas that have been customer contact. So next is the assumptions. So ang assumption is one of the more challenging components of a SOW, for it is usually tacit. It helps if you are developing the SOW as a team, for it is easier to spot assumptions that are expressed by other people. So it is useful for addressing questions about resource availability and project approach. So this is the one of the challenging components of the SOW, because our assumptions are usually tacit. So this section is useful at addressing questions about source availability, project approach for the product launch, and etc. These concerns are beyond the ability of the project team to control, but can have impact on the project's outcome. So it is used to flag issues for the sponsor's attention, such as timing conflicts, resource constraint, and project risk. Some companies require other topics that must be addressed in more detail during project definition, such as resource requirements, budget, or risk analysis. Here are some additional suggestions. Use bullets for every section except the scope definition to keep the SOW clear and concise. Make sure the objectives are measurable so the criteria for success are ambiguous. Write each bullet in the assumptions and issues sections in complete sentence to ensure complete thoughts. Then put required details in separate document as an attachment for the SOW to avoid clutter. And lastly, treat complex projects as programs with sub-projects, each with its own SOW, to achieve a useful level of perspective. Remember that without clear business direction, there is no way to determine whether the project is successful. So the clear business direction should describe the impact of the project in quantifiable terms. So consideration for formal planning. So planning should present sufficient data and information to a decision maker so that a choice between the alternatives offered by the planners can be made. A decision maker can only do this in whole range of a decision consequences are known. So the summary. Once again, project management is a process and practice that has developed over centuries. So incorporating the best thinking in the field, it encompasses a wide range of knowledge areas including integration, scope, time, cost, quality, human resources, project communications, risk, and procurement management. So projects are most likely to succeed when they have clear objectives, so a realistic schedule, and executive sponsorships. So these factors provide clarity and engender commitment in the project team. So when defining a project, it is essential to be explicit about the project scope and ultimate goals. So success should be defined measurable, bottom line terms, This ensures a common understanding of the project's purpose among the project term and other stakeholders, and it is specifically helpful in managing the expectation of the project's customers. So as a statement of work, again, is one-page document that can provide an at-a-glance view of a project scope and objectives. It is also helpful in expliciting assumption and constraint and lettering project sponsor and or customers to potential issues that could impact the project's progression. So the statement of work may all you need to get the project going on the right track. So remember that the extent of formal project management should be determined by the risk of the project and of course the organization's requirements. So the less control you have over the work to be done, the more you need project management.